Hey guys, HuShang here. Welcome to another Starcraft 2 lesson. Now today's video is inspired because yesterday or the day before I was looking at some replays of a Zerg Grandmaster friend of mine, and we were trying to pinpoint, what went wrong in his Zerg vs Protest games. And I posted a questionnaire on YouTube as well, just kind of asking you guys, what you think Grandmasters need to work on. And I think there was a couple of you that, might have been getting the right response there, but, it's much more fundamental than you would think, even at the GM level. And the mistake he was making was very economic focused. And of course, once I mentioned it, he was immediately like, oh, of course, right? That's the mistake. But I think this is extremely common in the Masters level and Diamond level and even below. Even past the point where you think you're spending your money correctly because you're keeping it low. So I have a bunch of graphs we're going to look at. And I know, super exciting, graphs and math. But by the end of this video, you guys should have a much better idea of how you need to be changing your economy. So let's open these up. Let's see, I haven't tested this. Paint, photo. Let's look at this one first. Is this working? Yes. Okay, cool. So the first one I have here is, well, first of all, I guess I have the workers on the y-axis, and this is the time on the x. So the green line is representative of the absolute maximum drones you could make if you didn't have anything to worry about. So I have a game here on Starcraft as well. So let's look at this first. Let's jump back over. Okay, so here in this game, I basically tried to represent this green line. So if we jump back in time, I opened up fairly standard, but I also skipped a lot of things you would need in a normal game to play safe. Like, so for example, we didn't get any gas because there's no reason to get speed if our goal is only to get the maximum number of drones. And you can also see that I'm basically, skipping Zerglings, I'm skipping a Roach Warren, I'm skipping all these things that you need to stay safe. But we're obviously going to get, more drones more quickly this way. So this is representative of the green line, which I'll come back to. And the blue line is representative of the maximum drones you can get while also staying safe. So we're going to look at some more graphs later of like what I think, most Masters players and Diamond players are doing, but this is probably more representative of, someone like Cyril who's literally taking the maximum possible path to getting as many drones as they can, but they're also, getting some Zerglings to scout. They're also making a safety Roach Warren, maybe not using it in this particular graph, but they're at least getting it. And let's look at another graph. Let's see if this is gonna work. Okay, that should have popped up. Nice. Okay, so this one is showing you different leagues. So let's start at well, we already talked about the blue line. I guess I reversed the colors, but in this case, the blue line is exactly what I just showed you. And so this is, the absolute maximum drones you can make if you're not making any concessions to be safe. And this might actually happen in some pro games, or at least they could be close to the blue line, where they're taking on a large degree of risk, where they're saying, okay, if my opponent does all in me, I'm just going to lose. But in the case that they don't realize in time, or, I can kind of fool them a little bit, then I can get away with being closer to this blue line. And this green line, where you're not getting quite as many drones, this is the maximum amount of drones that you can get while also staying safe. So this is basically the ideal anybody who's not a pro should shoot for, because as long as you play well at this line, you can never lose a game. Like, you'll always have enough units. I'll show you some graphs later where you get attacked and this changes a little bit, but assuming that your opponent's not attacking you, this is the ideal line to play safe and also get the maximum amount of drones. And then this orange line is, I think, where a lot of Diamond players, Masters players, and GM players are really making a lot of mistakes. And this one's a bit deceptive. We're going to come back to this one. This red line is just where people are actually, you know, just floating money basically. Where, you know, you can easily tell that their macro sucks. And they know as well, you know, they're floating like 1,000 minerals or 2,000 minerals at 5 minutes, and you're just like, what are you doing, man? Why do you have all these drones? Or where are your drones? Why do you have so much money? So that's the red line. Now this orange line is where people think they're macroing well, but they're not. And so this is probably most of you guys watching, to be honest. If my you know, chart saying how many of you are diamonds is correct, then probably this is a lot of you guys. So this line is basically where you're spending your money perfectly. So you think you're macroing well, but you're taking your gases too quickly, or you're building things you don't need, and that's cutting into the amount of drones you can make, even though you're spending your money. So this one we're going to look at a little bit in a second, and I'm going to show you some games where we're technically spending our money, but we're going to have way less drones than we actually should. And this is actually the problem with the GM friend of mine that I was looking at is, you know, his money was very low, obviously, his GM, but he was down about, what was it? It was something pretty large. I think it was like 15 drones by 5 minutes at a GM level. So, I mean, it's very deceptive. This is where a lot of people go wrong, is they think they're macroing well, but they're just totally not. Okay, we'll come back to that in a second again. Let's look at another graph here. I've got 5 graphs. We've got more to go. A lot more to go. Okay, so this is another concept entirely. So in this graph, everything is correct. Like, they're all green lines. But the difference is that we're responding to our opponent. So this first green line, these are all exponential, of course. As you're making more drones, you're going to be getting more drones more quickly. So this first line here is if your opponent is basically playing the absolute maximum macro they can, and you don't need to cut your drones at any point in order to make units. So as you can see, this first scout is right before the lines diverge. So this is where you would, you know, check what they're doing, and then if they're doing some sort of aggressive play, you would diverge into this. I guess it should be more of like a flat line and then an increase, but this would be if you're making some units and then you're going back to droning. Whereas this first line would be if you're playing against someone who's, you know, not attacking you at all. They've already got like 3 command centers or whatever. So there's no need to make any units. And so you can follow this line up to get to the, you know, fastest possible 66 workers while staying safe. And then, you know, in this case, this is where this is the second scout. So let's say the first scout, they were doing some sort of push. You made some units. Then you went back into droning. And then at a later time, you realized they're actually going for, you know, some sort of second attack. So you have to make units again, and then you get back to droning. And so this is still the ideal way to play, but it's just a different sort of game where your opponent is trying to attack you in 2 places. So these are all correct, but again, different games could lead to different speeds at which you get to 66 workers, even though you're playing correct in all of them. Okay, and let's look at one more. Actually, wait. I don't think we did this one yet. Yeah, okay, so this is kind of a similar idea. Is like, if you're getting attacked, let's say you scout, you know, right before this line flattens out, this green line. This is, you scouted some sort of attack, and so you made units, but there's also, you know, an ideal amount of units to make. So if you're making, let's say you need to make 6 units to be, you know, perfect to defend, and then you continue droning, that would be ideal. And then this red line represents you making too many units and then droning, but you're missing out on a lot of time getting to 66 workers. So ideally we want, you know, this this line to be as close to the green line as possible. But oftentimes you won't really try to get it perfect. What you'll try to do is just get it close. Because if you can make 6 units to defend, but then you know, like you make some small misclick or something, then you might still lose. So, you know, it might be more realistic to make like 7 or 8. or whatever the number is, close to the ideal, so that you have a little bit of leeway. And I think the weaker you are as a player, like if you're in the bottom leagues, then you might as well not try to get too close to this green line, because trying to get too close to the green line is also a little risky, because one small mistake and you lose. So you might try to get in between these, but definitely try not to overmake way too many units and fall behind. That's also a risk. And I have one more graph before we start looking at some actual games. This one doesn't seem to be opening up properly. There we go. Okay, so in this one, we have 2 players, just to show you a comparison. And let's look at the right one first. So in the right one, this is a graph of somebody who's setting up a very sharp attack. And so this is the correct way to do it, is drone as hard as you can until you get to the point where you want to make units, and then only make units and never make drones. So this would be like as sharp of an attack as you can do. Whereas on the left side, we have someone who is trying to defend the attack. And so there's 3 lines here. The green line is the perfect response. So you drone a little more than them. This isn't always the case, by the way, but this is usually the case, is you want to drone a little more than the person who's attacking, and then you want to stop and only make units. So this is the ideal way to do it. Whereas the orange line is slightly over droning. So in this case, usually what happens is you still defend, but you have to use your workers, things get really messy, and then you end up behind. You can see that the end result is you have less workers compared to the person who's all in, so this isn't really ideal. And then the red line represents someone who just, maybe didn't see the attack coming, and really overmade drones. And then this this perpendicular line is basically them just like losing the game. So again, we want to drone a little bit more and hit this green line would be perfect. Okay, let's go back to this one here. Also, I'm probably going to do a video on the Grandmaster Zerg I was helping, and we're going to analyze that game, but this is going to be important before we do that, so you guys can know what I'm talking about. Okay, so in this graph, again, I was saying earlier that the orange line is actually really, really common in Diamond, Masters, and even low GM. And so I want to show you guys how it can be really, really deceptive. So let's go in this game. Actually, I guess we'll just go to this period here, and I'll start playing as I talk about it a little bit, just so we get back on a more normal build order. So 18 gas, 17 pool, and in this game I'm going to try to keep the money really low and show you that that's not always enough. Actually, I'm going to try to take this more to the extreme, something I see in Diamond a lot, and then I'll show you the ideal perfect safety play. So we fill this gas, let's drone the natural a little bit. And this is going to differ from the first replay I showed you guys, because we have to make some safety units. So I'm going to default to, let's pull up this graph again. Oh, I guess you guys are still seeing the graph, aren't you? Fuck. Okay. But this is good anyways, because I'm going to show you guys this green line as well as the orange line. So right now I'm kind of staying on the green line. I'm going to make Zerglings, of course, to stay safe. There we go. And we're not just going to make only drones, of course. Let's get our queens going. Let's get our lings going. Okay, and then let's start playing a little over safe. Let's start teching too fast. Let me show you guys that you can easily spend your money while playing terrible. So let's grab a third. Let's grab speed. I'm gonna keep these guys on gas. Now this is bad, obviously, for a lot of you guys. You know this is bad. But let me show you to prove a point. Is we grab you know, we keep staying on gas, we're droning, our money is extremely low. So you might be able to fool some people into thinking you have really stellar macro. Let's get a fast layer. Now I'm not saying this is always bad to get a super fast layer. There are some ways you could go about doing this. But if your goal is to play a defensive style where you get the most possible drones, or even if you want to do some sort of, you know, later attack than this fast layer allows, then it could be hurting you a lot. So here we got a really fast layer. Let's also get a fast roach warren. Let's actually just start getting a bunch of stuff here. So let's get a roach warren. Let's get, you know, an evolution chamber. This is really common when I'm analyzing replays, is people getting very fast roach warrens, of course. You know, +1 is good. Let's get +1 super fast. Let's get a lot of gas so we can afford that +1. Let's get a queen here because we want to spread creep and make injects. I'm saying all this stuff like it sounds super logical because it sort of does. But this is all wrong, of course. Don't copy this. Let's get an overlord. Let's get +1. I don't know, let's make a couple safe healings in case we get attacked. Let's keep droning. I don't know, let's get some spores. Right, like we're making very sensible, like our money's super low, we're making very sensible choices. At least it appears so on the surface. What else do we want to do? I guess we have a pretty okay drone count, so let's start making, you know, some roaches. Let's get an overseer. Yeah, so I think this is a pretty normal diamondish level game. So we're at what? Let's go to 5. We're gonna go to 5 specifically because this is where my GM friend and I stopped, so I know how many drones we can get. So let's go here. Let's go to 5 and see what we have. I didn't spread any creep. I probably could have done that as well. But like 40 workers. Okay. So my money's super low. I guess not like amazingly low. We could make some ravagers or something. But it's reasonably low. And we have 40 workers. So it seems like I'm macroing decently well, right? I think most people look at this game and think, yeah, this guy's macro is fine without anything to compare it to. But let's go back and let's replay this game and just keep in mind that number, 40 workers. So let's see, where did I diverge? So this is probably a good point to start, I think. Yeah, let's go from here. Maybe I'll be a little bit late on this third, but that's fine. That won't make too much of a difference. And this game we're gonna pull off gas. So probably a lot of you guys know that this makes a big difference. But let's cut every corner. So 26 will make an overlord. And, oh, I'm 1 too low. And let's go to 28 before we get speed. So that's just like 2 extra drones, a really small amount. And then let's get speed. Move these guys over so the AI doesn't kill them. Inject. Let's get another queen. And again, remember, 40 workers is what I had by 5. Set a queen here. Let's get an overlord. And let's really delay this gas. Gas is probably the biggest thing you can adjust to make your macro much stronger. It seems very subtle, but it's actually extremely important that you optimize this. Okay, so I filled my gas finally. They're going to be in there in a second. And we are droning. Let's spread some creep as well. Let me show you that you can even get creep in here. But what I'm not doing is I'm not making the layer super fast, right? Let's get a queen. Now, I'm also not being as greedy as possible, right? This isn't the same as the first game I showed. This is much more safe, but it's also more realistic. We have some lings, we're not gonna die or whatever. We can scout a little bit. Inject. Let's fill this base up. You know, I'm delaying my spores. Maybe I don't need them in this particular game. Let's get a safety roach warren at a somewhat realistic time. Maybe this won't be exactly realistic, but you guys will get the idea anyways. Let's grab some gas. Rally over here. Over 5 minutes, 40 worker. I'm not gonna show you guys the workers yet, so we have some suspense. But I believe I'm already much past 44. Or 40, rather. Much past 40. Get a layer. I think this is a completely reasonable way to play against maybe a robo build or something like that. And let's maybe grab some drones here. Let's get one more gas. And maybe around this point get an Evo or something. And alright, I think we're already at 5. I think I'm already at 66 workers. Let's check. 67. Okay, so this is what I mean. Like, it looked like I was spending my money correctly, but at the same time in the game, we have, what is this? 27 more workers. Like, not double, but it's getting pretty close to double. Let's, you know, it's pretty high up there. So, and all we really did was optimize our gas a little more to delay the tech. And so, you know, maybe a lot of you guys are having this macro mistake and not realizing that their macro is much worse than it actually is. So look at your macro, see if you're getting stuff, especially gas, too early compared to what you need. And of course, this is the ideal, you know, droning. You know, you might not be able to do this. They might be doing some sort of a depth attack, and you know, you need to change this earlier. Like maybe at this point you need to make some lings or whatever, but this idea of delaying your gas and delaying your tech is extremely powerful. And like I said, something that I was working on with even a grandmaster friend of mine. And so you can take the macro to a completely new level if you can just optimize a little further your mineral to gas ratio. So something to think about. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a little longer than normal, but hopefully it was super informative. You liked it. If you did, give it a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.